Okay, so I think now we have a great number of audience. We can start now. Okay, so hi everyone. A very good evening to all of you present here. I'm Nidhi Chawla, a final year undergraduate from the Department of Electrical Engineering, and I'm currently serving as a Joint Secretary in WIE IEEE ZSCT AMU. And also, I'm your host for today's event, that is the episode 1 of the MS series. The main motive of this series or event is to help the students with all the difficulties they might face in their journey of pursuing their masters from abroad. And today we'll be focusing on Germany. And having said that, I would like to call Pratima to introduce our guest speaker for today's episode.
Good evening, everyone. I am Pratima Singh from Pre-Final Year Electronics Engineering and currently working as a member of IEEE Women in Engineering Affinity Group. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce you all to our keynote speaker, Sana Javed, who's going to talk to us about how we can pursue our higher studies from a German university. She's currently pursuing a PhD at Technical University of Munich, Germany. She holds her B.Arch degree from ZSCT AMU. Following that, she also secured first rank in her post-graduation from IIT Roorkee. Also, she has been a recipient of one of the most prestigious scholarship, DAAT, not only once but twice. She has numerous research publications and also worked as a teaching professional for over 2 years, I guess. Considering her overall expertise and achievement, she makes up for a worthy role model for ambitious individuals like all of us. On behalf of our whole IEEE team, I would like to express my gratitude. Thank you so much, ma'am, for connecting with us today. We are looking forward to a great session ahead.
Thank you, Nidhi and Pratima, and also for the very generous
Hello.
introduction. So it's very kind of you to say all those good words. I don't know if I really deserve them, but thank you. It's good to hear, and thank you everybody who's joining us today. I'll try to share my screen. There is a brief, also a detailed presentation I made so as you can benefit from it. But I would request that maybe I do the presentation first and you collate the questions together and then we address them towards the end. And I will also share some of the links later on. So just let me know if you see my screen. Okay, interesting. It doesn't give me an option. Am I allowed to share? Is everybody allowed to share what? Yeah, it should show now. Do you see it?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, perfect. So today I'm going to talk about higher education overseas with a special focus in Germany. And as everybody has already told, that I'm a doctoral candidate at Technical University of Munich. So I did not do my master's from Germany. I did it from IIT Roorkee, but I still have some of the information and idea about how to pursue masters abroad. So I'll talk about three main things: that what does a master's degree in Germany look like? What is an ideal application process, and how do you go on selecting the universities and courses? So let's first start with how does a master's degree program in Germany looks like. So basically, every master's degree program in Germany can be divided into can start in 2 semesters. What I call here is semester division. So either the program can start in winter semester, which lasts from 1st October to 31st March, or it can start in summer semester, 1st April to 30th September. So why is it important for you to know is because the different programs will start in different semesters. So it's important that you check them timely accordingly before that semester, and that you stick to the deadlines, because for the winter semester the deadline is March the same year usually. So it may be subject to change depending on the courses, university, or like some of the special cases like COVID-19. But then again, it's important that you understand that different courses might start in different semesters, so you have to be aware to check them timely. For instance, a course in TUM, which is Masters in Communication Engineering, it starts in the winter semester, contrary to the informatics, which starts in the summer semester. So likewise, there are different semester-wise courses. Second thing that you should know about master's degree is that there are two types of masters in Germany. First is an international masters, which means all the courses offered in this program are in English. And second is a non-international masters. That doesn't mean that the international students cannot enroll in it, but it means that the courses that will be offered in this particular program would be either in German, pure German, or it would be in mixed German and English. So once you are checking the program of your interest, it's very important to understand that also check the whole extended curriculum, because otherwise you may end up taking a course which is offered in German and you do not have an expertise to take the course in German, for instance, and that's important for you to understand before you apply for it. So generally when you go to the courses, you might see some information like this, key data, that what type of study it is it a full-time study, is it a part-time study, what kind of language proficiency do you need, so it says you need English, but the courses are offered both in English and German. So you may choose to not take the different courses that are offered in German. It doesn't mean the program is in German. It means only some of the courses would be offered in German, and maybe there are alternatives, or maybe there are different courses which you can choose from, like the electives that we have in ZSCET, and you have so much more electives in Germany than are offered in India. So that gives you a variety of choices. And then you might want to check that whether how many credits would you need to fulfill for a particular course, what would be the duration of your study. So it says 4 full-time. That means 4 semesters, but usually this can be extended to 6 semesters in TUM and sometimes 8 semesters in different other universities. I'll talk about why exactly people sometimes extend these semesters. Sometimes it's due to their part-time jobs, or they want to extend an internship. So it gives you the flexibility. You do not have to complete it in 2 years. You can extend it to 3 years, at least in TUM. And some other universities like TU Dresden even allows you 4 years. And sometimes people just take a 1-year sabbatical and travel and do different things. So it's all included, and it's a very flexible kind of model. The third thing that you must know are some basics, that the education in Germany is free. So there is what I mean by free is there is no college fees, but there is a very basic semester fees, around say 25,000 Indian rupees per semester. And what are the benefits of paying this fees is that you get free transport in the whole public transport in the local area, and sometimes even in the extended outer areas. So it's a lot of benefit for students because the transport is quite costly. So it helps you if you have a student card, and if you have paid the fees, then you have to pay the fees. Basically, this is very basic. Second thing is, always remember while you're applying and while you are, aiming to apply for a master's or even jobs in Germany, that there are certain work ethics and German philosophy that is highly valued. First of all, do not expect to be spoon-fed. So you're expected to be very independent. You should be able to take on the independent work. Second, there is a problem that Germans usually point out, is that the CVs they receive from Indian students, first of all, they're not very well designed.
Hello.
Is everything okay? Okay, so CVs are not very well designed. So first of all, you may want to try a very like a EuroExpress. This is a format. This is a European format that you may want to use to design your CVs. Second important thing that Germans point out is that do not put anything on the CV that you really do not know. So if you say that I know how to work on C++, they will take it as true. So if you really do not know how to work on it, please do not mention. So this is a very important aspect because it really affects later on in your jobs. And the third thing is, and which is also I call a very good and a bad thing at the same time, is that the German education system is very flexible.
भाई बैठो बैठो जल्दी
So
कहाँ थे यार तुम
can somebody mute?
Mohammed Yusuf,
Audience,
please mute yourself.
Nidhi, please mute or please remove that person, okay? Nidhi?
So, okay. So another point is that the education system is very flexible. So it's not like there is a timetable that this and this and this, you have to do these many courses and you have to do them on this particular semester. But you can choose which semester you want to do that course in. Of course, that course has to be offered in that semester. Like for instance, a course is offered in winter semester. You can take it in your first year, you can take it in your second year. If you're extending, you can take it in your third year. And second thing is you can decide, but the only thing that you have to take care is you have to fulfill some certain number of credits. So for instance, you're applying for communication engineering, you can see that it mentions that you have to fulfill all of these credits, which may include 10 credits for this thing, 10 credits. These are the compulsory credits that you have to do. Then certain are electives and they are optional credits, and you can choose any subject of your interest in that. Then there will be some credits for the lab work. There will be some credits for the research internship, which would be mandatory. Then again for thesis. So likewise, you can decide everything. Of course, thesis goes in the end. Rest of the things can be shuffled. So more or less, once you have completed your credits, you apply for a thesis, which can be in an industry or which can be in the university. Same goes for the internship. It can be in the industry, it can be in the university. And a lot of times people apply in the industry, and that helps them because they work on a short internship, and if the the supervisor likes the work, they may hire you for the thesis and eventually even for a job if you have performed really well. So these are the things that you must understand, that choose your course accordingly, see the flexibility, but also remember that this will come as a greater responsibility to you because there is nobody to spoon feed you regarding these things. Then I'll talk briefly about what is the application process. So this is how, here that you see on the right is just an example of a application process of masters at TUM. Likewise, it may change from university to university, and of course, I'm not giving you an exhaustive idea, but the idea is to just introduce you to various options, and that so as it helps you to explore further. So if you see, it varies from program to program, and in case you have doubts regarding these things, there are always some student advisors and course coordinators that are available, whom you can directly call or email, and they are always ready to help you. So always make good use of these people because they are really responsive. They have a really good, I would say, a list of documents or a checklist kind of thing, which will help you to understand the whole process, which will be even more exhaustive, very course specific or university specific. So just going briefly that how it looks like is, first of all, you prepare your application, and I'll come to how you prepare your application. So there are certain number of documents that you might need and certain things that are asked for you. So you prepare this application, you send these application documents through different portals. Maybe for instance, for TUM, there is an online portal, TUM Online. There can be different other portals from other universities. And all this information is easily available on the websites. And then they review your application, and there is something called complete the aptitude test. That doesn't mean that you have to give a test, but it may mean so, depending on the course. So some courses, they will directly take you if they find your degree, your grades and your credits, everything up to the mark, they will directly take you. If they do not, if they feel like there is something that they need to understand more from you, maybe they will call you for a short interview. And these short interviews are sometimes taken by junior professors. And once, if they like your interview and they think that you are suitable for the admission, they will notify you within few days later on that, okay, we have finalized you. You then accept your spot, and then you submit all the application and documents for the enrollment, which happens after you come to Germany. And then you pay the semester fees after coming to Germany, and you are then completely enrolled. But and then further the life goes on. So what could be the possible required documents that you should prepare before you start the application process? First is, you should always have your bachelor's degree and transcripts, or at least you should know that by the date of submission you will have them. So try to apply timely for it, because transcripts a lot of time are issued later, quite late from the university. So you need a different, you have to apply separately for it. Degree goes the same thing after you are convocated or something. Then some of the universities in Germany require really good grades. So you should keep in mind that some of the top ranking universities may not accept you if you do not have a good CGPA. in your bachelor's degree, or if you do not fulfill the number of credits, which is in case if all my audience is from AMU. I don't know if everybody's from AMU, but if it is so, AMU I think has enough credits to be accepted directly, but the grades depend on person to person. So you should try to maintain good grades for that if you are aiming for the really high ranking courses and universities. Then they may ask, there is usually a requirement of 2 recommendations that should come, and you should always aim to get it from a very I would say established professor, or better the reputation, better the recommendation is accepted. Then you might be asked to submit a motivation letter, and this in itself is a different task, which of course I cannot address here, but if you are willing to know later on, maybe someday we could also do that. Then, like I said, if they do not like or if they're not satisfied with your grades or with your credits that you have fulfilled, they will call for an online technical interview, which is usually done by the junior professors. And lastly is something which is also very important and also needs to be done timely, is to prove your English language proficiency. So you might be required course-wise to give either of these tests, either TOEFL or IELTS, and like that these tests in itself are not the easiest to score in, and second of all, they are very costly. So I would also recommend that if you do not have resources to give these tests, and if you are willing to apply in a course, please write to the advisors that I mentioned that if you can get a proof of language of instruction from the university that all your courses were offered in English at the bachelor's level, and if they accepted course for the respective course, you can then skip this giving this test. Otherwise, you have to schedule giving this test, and it's also a time-taking process in itself. So you may get, for instance, here for the Masters in Communication Engineering, you get, this is the email ID, and you can contact this person directly, or you can contact the General Inquiries Student Service Center, and they may lead you to the correct person as well. So in that way, you can write to them and ask them if you can be exempted from such language proficiency tests. Now, like I said, this was a generic list of what kind of documents you may require, but there can be a difference in the required documents, which will vary course-wise. For instance, on the left, you see what is required for Masters in Communication Engineering, and on the right, you see what is required in Masters in Informatics. So you need to check each course respectively if you're applying for multiple courses, which you will, of course, because it's not sure that you get the admission in the one you are applying in. So please read the websites carefully, please jot down everything that you require, and simultaneously prepare the documents accordingly. And there is only one, I already mentioned all of these documents more or less. There's only one thing that I would address here is the analysis of the curriculum, which what it means is they will some of the courses would require you to fill an Excel sheet or a form which asks you to translate your grades in an Indian university to a German grading system. So sometimes here, you can also see on the website the grade converter, and you can use this and make the analysis of the curriculum for your respective course. Now, how do you select the courses and universities? So first of all, it's very important to know for yourself that why do you want to pursue masters in Germany or overseas for that matter? Because it's not a matter of just pursuing masters, but it is a matter of where it leads you to, and that would eventually define what your career choices would be, what your future would look like. So you have to make choices very wisely. So just ask yourself, is and why there is something called reason zero, because this should really be no reason to do a master's, that I just want to get out of India. So it shouldn't be a reason, because you will at some point lack motivation and you will just maybe not complete the degree the way you should be. But there can be other reasons. For instance, you want to pursue quality master's degree in the area of your interest, or you want to settle abroad, or you want to pursue PhD or a postdoc later on. So depending on these, you can choose courses, you can choose the universities which offer, because for instance, you want to settle, your choice is to pursue PhD. So you might want to work or to choose a field which helps you to choose a PhD in the same university or nearby, which has a potential of offering you a PhD position later on. Or if you want to pursue a quality master's degree, then you might want to go by the ranking of the courses. You want to settle abroad, you may want to choose a city of your interest. Likewise, although Germany is a very small city and easy to locate within, it's not like India, huge or something that it's difficult to locate across the cities, but it still makes a difference that for instance, I am based in Munich, so I automatically have a liking for Munich more than any other city. So it's like that, I'm more comfortable, I would like to seek a job here if I get it, and so on and so forth. So I would now come to few points that you must take into account when you are selecting the courses and the universities. This is just a map of Germany here that you see, which mentions different states that Germany is divided into and the number of universities each state has. For instance, one of the highest numbers is in Bavaria, where TU Munich is based. So it depends, what do you want to seek? So first of all, you always should see what your course of interest is and what is the university ranking. So if you get a higher ranking university but not the course of your interest, it also doesn't make sense to just take it for the ranking of the university, because you're not interested in that course. So you have to somewhere strike a balance between both of these things. Second, like I mentioned, location of the city of the university makes a lot of difference, not just because maybe you're living in a better city or maybe you're living in a very small city, but because it will define a lot of other things. First, that what kind of exposure you get there. For instance, what are the kind of jobs you may get later on, or what are the part-time jobs that you may get at the instance. For instance, people who stay in Munich have a lot of options of very nice technical part-time jobs. On the other hand, people living in smaller cities do not have such an option of technical part-time jobs. So in a way, these part-time jobs are more like delivery person, or working in McDonald's and stuff like this, which does not add to your portfolio. On the other hand, the people who are working in technical jobs as part-time jobs, they get experience based on that. They get more contact and more exposure. So it might be wiser to locate to a city like that. For instance, Berlin is a very good city. It's cheaper. It's very international. You get a huge international community. You also get a lot of job opportunities there. Munich, on the other hand, is also very international, has good job opportunities, but it's not so. It's one of the costliest cities in Germany. And likewise, there are other cities which may have good universities but might not have good job opportunities. Of course, at the moment, the scenario is very different because a lot of people are offering online jobs, work from home opportunities. So maybe this is a difference, but I don't know how long it stays, and you have to work out according to your convenience then. Then you might want to check if there are PhD and research opportunities later on. For instance, are there other research institutions other than universities? For instance, there can be Max Planck Institute or Fraunhofer Institute, and likewise. So Munich has great research opportunities. Dresden has great research opportunities, and such a exposure is what also might interest you while you're choosing the city or the course or the university. I already mentioned about the future job possibilities, and in a way also the cost of the program and cost of living. So always cost of the living, I already mentioned that it's different in the different cities, but cost of the program is something, like I said, all the public universities. So always mind that you're opting for the public universities, which are better in Germany. Private are not bad, but they have a certain amount of fees and you may end up paying. So I would not recommend you, because public universities are really good with research profiling, and in general they are free, and there are much more, I would say they are much more attractive than excuse me, than opting for a private university. Sorry. So here I have I will run you through these links, but I have just listed them down. Oh, sorry. So these first three links, dart.de or hochschulecampus.de, are where you can search for different programs from your interest. In masters, I'll take you through them practically as well. Jura Express is a link which is for the entire Europe, and all the kind of jobs are listed here. Research jobs, technical, non-technical jobs. So you can search for the jobs here. This I mentioned because you may want to look into them or just sign up for them if you want to be aware of certain kind of scholarships that can be offered for master's program, which are rare but are still there. Then if you want to compare the cost of living between the cities in Germany, you can use this website, Numbeo. And of course, everybody is aware of the QS rankings. So that would help you to decide also the university ranking. Then if you are selected, of course, it's time to celebrate, but also to gear up, because I always say this, that in India, it is difficult to get into a master's degree, but much easier to get out. So you maybe cracking a GATE exam or scoring in a GATE exam is much difficult, but in Germany, getting the admission is much easier than to get out. So you have to, it really takes a lot of effort and a lot of hard work to get out successfully from a German university. These are a few slides just summing up the additional information. Once you are admitted in a university, look out that how, these are the things that you should look out for. First, how are you going to finance your studies? So I already mentioned the fees is not very huge. It's quite less, around 25,000 INR per semester. That should be totally affordable. Then second thing, which is very important, and this is for the student visa, that you would need to show around 10,000 euros for a year. That means around 9 lakh Indian rupees. And that should be in your account if you're going to apply for a student visa, if you do not have a scholarship, which again is a rare option in Germany for masters. Third is, after you have arrived here, you have a blocked account and you have paid the fees, and you get the residence permit to live in Germany, you will be allowed to work 180 full days. And full day means 8 hours. So that would be the amount of part-time job you can do, which works very well with your education system. You can adjust your courses accordingly, and you can go on working in different types of jobs. And also you can apply for some scholarships, which are not so much, but 200 to 300 euros per month. Especially for women, there are a lot of scholarships for women because they're trying to promote the women education more. And some of the scholarships, I do not have a list of this, but a lot of times university fairs and exhibitions happen once the international students join in the starting of every semester. And you may get a lot of pamphlets and information and kiosks there offering information about these scholarships, which are usually from the university or from the German government. Second, if you have gotten an admission, and even if you are not going to study in German, I would recommend you to start learning German, especially if you are a master's student. First, because it's very easy to just live your life. Second, because if you know German, there are much more chances of securing good job offers. So you will not end up being a delivery person or, just like that. I'm not saying that it's a bad job, but only that it's a non-technical job. It will not add anything to your CV. So if you are aiming for good jobs in the industry and likewise other part-time jobs, so learning German helps you. And sometimes even the scholarships, some scholarships are from DRD, some are from Humboldt, Alexander Humboldt. So these scholarships are only eligible for some, the eligibility criteria is to know a basic level of German. So it helps you if you know a certain level of German there. Third is to get a mandatory health insurance before coming here. So plan for it and apply for the visa accordingly, timely, because it's really difficult to get a slot, especially if you are in the northern region, in the Delhi region. So mandatory health insurance can be of two types. It can be a private health insurance or a public. Private one is cheaper, public is costlier, but private is more cumbersome if you want to get the reimbursement. Public is more convenient. However, the doctors prefer the private one because in that you pay upfront. And in public, the insurance people pay to the doctor, which is delayed. So usually everybody recommends to take a public health insurance, which is costlier, still better. Because once you shift from public to private, back to public is not a very easy task. So, but on the other hand, I would say that it's not the worst if you take a private insurance as a student, because you are not earning so much. You can manage. I mean, you can then shift to the public later on, which will take a little bit, which will be a little bit difficult process, but it's doable. People do it. Lastly, if you are offered a place, start looking for a residence right away, especially if you are going to the cities like Frankfurt, Munich, Stuttgart. Maybe these are some of the cities where the accommodation situation is terrible. So start looking for the accommodation. First of all, as soon as you get enrolled, that is, you pay the fees, you should approach the student in work. This is a body which deals with the student dorms. So basically, they provide you a place, but it is really competitive. So you are most of the time you are put on the waiting list. So try to approach them timely. Fill the form as soon as you are enrolled. Then, if you do not get a position with student in work right away, if you're put on the waiting list, stay on the waiting list, because maybe after a semester you get it. But for the first semester, then you may need to check other options. So you can check sublet options, which is like a student is staying in the dorm, sublets the room. So that's possible, but always try to take a room which has a formal sublease agreement, because a lot of time it is done unofficially, and that's not good for you or the other student as well if you are caught. Then there are some private student accommodations in different cities. You may want to look for them. And there are shared apartment options. Below this, I have listed 4 websites, and they also have the apps which are known as VK Gesucht, eBay Kleinanzeigen, Immowelt, and other Facebook groups, which would be like accommodation in Munich, accommodation in, or student accommodation here. You know, you may explore that, and there are several ads that are always available on these groups, which you would want to look into if you get a position there. So I will stop here, and I will quickly show you the links that I was talking about, and then we can address the questions. Okay. So like this, you can check the different degree programs that are offered in, for instance, this is from TUM, and you can check what are the master's programs, what are different bachelor's programs, and then accordingly you can go to one of them and check. For instance, I go here. Okay, it's not working. Let's say here. And then of course it tells you it's a full-time study. What this is the conversion of the grades, this is the student fees, this is the required language proficiency, and different things. What does this cover? How can you apply? And all these information you can get according to the degree programs. So try to search for the university degree programs, university wise, and you will get all the other information. There is also a contact person here. There's also, you can call them, and writing an email, it's very easy, and they will always get back to you. So do you see the other tab now? Can somebody tell me?
Yes, it is visible.
So it's changing, right? If I'm changing between the tabs, or is it showing you the same screen? Is it the same screen? Agro
Yes,
system?
yes, it's same, it's same.
Okay. So I have to change the screen now. And this is the DAD website, dad.e. I can send a separate document with all of these links to you. Here, you can also choose what kind of course you want to do. For instance, master's degree, English only, or German and English, and then your field of study, say engineering, and then you search for it. and it gives you a list of different kind of master's programs that are offered in different universities across Germany. And then you can also check other options here. Right? So it's a very comprehensive, very nice list. So this is a very good website to search for what kind of courses you want to do. Then this, for instance, Euraccess is a list where you can get the job. You can say, okay, I am a researcher or this and this, say for instance, researcher, and I want to search for job. And then it will give you different options that what kind of job search. And they can be different offers. This is especially good for the research profile while you are looking maybe for internship or for a thesis. But also there are some other technical jobs that you can look out for. So I think I will stop here and then we can address the questions individually.
Okay, so I think Sanapi has shared her experience and knowledge in all the possible aspects, from academic to medical issues, everything she has shared. And now I think that we can handle the questions if there are some. Is the chat box open to questions? Yes, now it is open.
Is this only for the master program? What about the postgraduate program? For example, what about the research programs, PhD programs? The procedures
Well,
are same?
this was, I was informed that this talk is meant only for the master's students, and that's one reason why I do not include the PhD research details. But of course, I can briefly tell you, I mean, what are you interested to know about? Because it's again, kind of the same process that you prepare these documents, other than that you will need to prepare. There can be two types of PhDs. One is a structured PhD. Second is a PhD, which I am doing non-structured, but funded by an external agency, which is DAAD. The structured PhD usually is funded by the university, by the professor. So you kind of apply to the direct position, open position, and it's already defined what you have to do within 3 or 4 years of that PhD. You, of course, develop a plan accordingly, but kind of is laid out for you. But non-structured PhD, which I am doing, is it works more like a research proposal. Then I approach separate professors, and any professor who agrees to work with me would then ask if accepted, would ask me to apply for scholarship, and then I can apply for the scholarship. And if I get the scholarship, there you go. So, but this is, I've put it very simply, just because the focus for other student was not for the PhD in this particular talk. Okay, is there any other question? Can you please go through the slide again about when to apply, as we complete our course in May of particular year? So for which session? So it doesn't depend upon which session you should go for, but rather which session or which semester the course is offered in. So if the course is offered in winter semester, which starts in October, from 1st October, then you should start applying or looking for or preparing the documents right in your last year of the degree, that is your 8th semester. And if the course is offered, if the particular course is offered in the summer semester, which starts from April, then you have enough time to even get your degree and to prepare all the documents. But it doesn't depend on what you want to go for, but rather what semester it's offered in. Okay. What is the minimum CPI should a student have to feel him safe? I really do not have an idea of this. I would say people have been rejected even at an 8 CGPA at TUM. So maybe you did a very good bachelor thesis and they consider it, you know. But a lot of times in TUM, for instance, is very strict. it rejects you if you have even a 8 CGPA. But there are of course universities which have a leeway, and therefore you would have to look for the options that suit you, or maybe write to them. They may not mention this very clearly that they require a CGPA like this, but then again, this can be an underlying factor that determines the rejection of your application. So you can contact the program advisor, like I mentioned, and then you can go ahead and ask them if there is a requirement for the CPI. But I really don't know, because I have not explored every university, and I can't. It's just I would be speaking on a very superficial level. But I would say 8 is a good thing to at least apply. 8 CGPA should be fine for good ranking universities. Is it possible to switch branch from electrical to computer? I think yes, it should be possible if you want to switch, but or I can't say that always, but why I'm saying it's possible is that I have seen people doing bachelor's in music and then suddenly doing masters in something really different. But I don't know, maybe they take a diploma or something, because they do see your credits. They also see a evaluation of the subjects, which means that if you are going to study computer science, you should have a basic knowledge of computer programming and some basic subjects that are taught in computer sciences. If you have not taken those courses in your electrical engineering, especially because there is not much option in Aligarh, and there may be people coming from different universities who have taken them as electives, and that's why they are allowed to do a master's. But I cannot be sure from coming from AMU, where you do not have a possibility to have electives like that, if you would be allowed to do that. This is a question for the admins. How can we get this recorded video? Okay. Asma, I'm an architecture student. I recently did my MR, but I'm confused which area I'll go for PhD. How can I decide? So a lot of times, Asma, after your master's, you might get an idea that what kind of PhD field of research interests you. So if you did a master's in architecture, you must have worked on something in your master thesis. Maybe it interested you, maybe it was just by luck or just by chance. If it did interest you, I would recommend reading more in that field and exploring what are the gaps, and then trying to figure out how those gaps can be addressed, and that may lead you to decide a PhD topic. If you landed in your master project thesis accidentally and you did not like the field so much, then you may want to just explore different fields of different master's degree, and then see what kind of area interests you and read more and more about it. I would just say reading is the only way to decide how and where, in which field you want to do PhD. What's the probability and criteria for grabbing scholarships? So there are not many scholarships, as I mentioned. There can be some when you enter the program, but there are very, very limited programs offered by DAAD. So please check the website of DAAD, and time to time they keep updating it, and they just let you know that there are certain scholarships which can be availed by the master students. I'm also sharing a link here, which is a very recent link, I think, for Erasmus Mundus master's scholarship. And it is also for the people who want to take admission in Germany. So I don't know if you got, yeah, there's a link there. Then for German taught program, up to which level one should have to qualify Goethe? For the German taught program, you should at least have a C1 level, which is very difficult to achieve. And that's why most of the international students do not opt for it. But if you can fulfill a requirement of C1, you can definitely go for the German taught programs. Can you please arrange a session for PhD also? Some sites. Yes, maybe in the future. Yes, I did conduct a session very recently on my own, but maybe through also this platform if there is enough audience. How can we get international internship? What do you mean by international internship? While you are in India? if that's what you mean, there's again, I would lead you to the DAD website. There is an internship program in DAD for 3 months funded internships in Germany. Do explore that. So you can get the international internships like that. But if you are in Germany and then you are talking about national internships, I would say Euraccess is your place, which offers all the courses offered. All the offers from Europe, whole Europe.
Hi,
Can you see
sir.
it?
Hi, Sana. Prankush here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for such an insightful talk. So I got two questions here.
Mm-hmm.
First one is, so I completed my master's from MNIT Jaipur
Okay.
in somewhere around the climate change kind of domain.
Mm-hmm.
So, how realistic is it that we strike up a conversation with a professor that we know is working in the field that we are trying to work on, and then somewhat demonstrating our work experience and whatever projects that we have worked on, and then converting it into a PhD. So this was the part one, and the second part is uh, you know uh, there are PhD programs in India also. So what made you decide to go to Germany? Do you, do you want to come back and join as a faculty at any IIT or NIT, or do you want to stay there and just pursue your research quest? So that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Parankush, for your question. If you have done masters and you are aiming for PhD, and you want to kind of highlight what you have done to the professors, that's your first question, right?
Yes, yes.
And you work in climate change. I think this is already a very hot field right now. A lot of work is happening in Germany. Some of the leading work is being done in Germany in the field of climate change. But there is no direct way to approach a professor. A lot of times you do not just get a reply. So you cannot, you may want to write to them directly, and there are fair chances that they'll never reply back. So one thing that networking helps. So if you get to the professor through somebody, it really helps. If the professor it increases your credibility. Maybe you connect with them on social media platforms. With the professors as well, they are much more friendly, I would say, when they are responding on LinkedIn, on ResearchGate. So one thing that works for me, if I want to get in contact with someone, is that I check a lot of work they do, especially on the ResearchGate. So I keep, asking question or sharing, asking them for their articles, and in this way, at least you get to know them. Then you can write to them very personally that this is the work that interests me. For now, why did I decide to go abroad to do a PhD is because I already had an experience of doing my master thesis in Germany. And I was offered a DAD scholarship to pursue that. And when I saw the research level that is there in Germany, I was quite amazed and at the same time surprised that even the IITs do not reach that level. And this made me realize that it's maybe a good idea to, if you are going to invest time doing a PhD, maybe do it from a better place. Yeah.
Fine. So, just a little bit of the extension. So, what I'm trying to get, I will try to get the assistant professor job post my PhD, because once you're in a good IIT and IT, you really like the environment, and the
Yeah.
just the life and the research opportunity that they have. So, is there a favorable conversion rate if I go on to obtain a doctorate from Germany or from abroad, and then come back and if I apply for say AP jobs, do they reflect or do they help? That's it. Thank you.
Yes, it does make a difference if you have a degree from, especially a PhD from Germany, because more recently the requirement in IITs has changed for hiring of the assistant professors. They they I don't know if it's still applied, but it was somewhere in the line that you have to have a PhD degree from outside or at least a postdoc to be able to teach in an IIT, and maybe NITs would follow and so on, you know. So it's always a good idea because it does make a lot of difference if you have a degree in from India or from abroad. And abroad, of course, a good university, not just anywhere.
Thanks, Anu.
You're welcome. Okay, so I will try to address the questions quickly. I can stay 5-10 minutes. I mean, I'm okay staying if people have more questions, just to let you know. Could you please, okay, can you suggest some organizations for PhD funding at TUM? DAD is the only direct organization for funding of PhD, external funding. Otherwise, you have to apply for the funding through the university from the professor, which is kind of rare because they usually prefer the students who have either done the masters from Germany or masters from the EU countries or who are German students. So because they are just relying more on them. But if coming from India, if you want a PhD funding, I would say DAD is the best option. As you said that getting into universities at overseas is easy, but getting out is tough. So in what sense? So what I mean by getting out is tough is it's not in the sense of getting a technical job, but it is about the courses. So it's not easy to pass the courses. It's not like you will study one night before and you will think, okay, we'll pass the course and we'll be done. And I know how it works in India, you know. So that's in that sense, I say that in India, it's much difficult to get in, but much easier to get out because then you are it's not so stringent. But in Germany, you can't just simply get out like that. You have to really work hard. You have to understand the things because questions are not asked very directly. It's a very conceptual kind of question paper. It's often very difficult, and sometimes you do not get good grades. So you are going to retake that exam, and that just increases the amount of time you invest in that course. Second, in India, when you enter into a master's, you are actually offered, if you enter through GATE, you are offered a scholarships. Second, the living condition. You live in a hostel, you're offered food, you're kind of pampered, I would say. But once you're doing a master's degree abroad, it's a whole lot of different scenario. You have to fend for yourself. You have to earn your own money because you have to sustain yourself. So although the education is free in Germany, you still have to, if you do not really come from a very privileged background, a lot of students come and work part-time so as they can support themselves. So, you have to pay the semester fees, you have to pay for your accommodation, which is much costly than India. Then you have to cook your food, and all these things may look, I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm just preparing that it may look difficult, easy, but together with studies, it just adds up to the tasks. So once you enter, you have to balance a lot of things. You're a lot on your own, and that's why I call it that it's much difficult to get out, apart from the academic part as well. How much work experience matters for admission? No, usually the work experience doesn't matter for any admission in masters, because until and unless it's exceptionally relevant experience that you have, it may help you in your further studies maybe, but not at the time of admission.
But it's helpful in the PhD, the experience.
It may help you, especially if it is in academia, if you have some publications or something like this. Or
Not
some,
industrial.
no, I mean, until and unless it's really relevant to the area of your work, because there can also be an industrial PhD. So if you are aiming for industrial PhD, maybe your industrial work experience may help, but academic experience only helps if you have if you want to go into academia further, like PhD. So the academic experience is more counted for, because then you can show that I have research acumen, I worked on this and this thing, and it does reflect on your application anyhow. So do IELTS score matter for German taught program? No, if the course is in German, doesn't matter. Then it just doesn't make sense to have an IELTS score. It's meant for English courses. If we want to take our family and kids along with us to pursue PhD, yes, Germany is very accepting of this. If you want to take family along with you, it's quite possible for you to do so. But that only depends once you have a funding and you can show that you can sustain your family with you. Because like I said, the concept of blocked account. So PhDs do not have to show blocked account if you have a scholarship. So if you can show that every month you'll be paid this much amount of money, you do not have to show a blocked account and you can directly go there. And if you can, then depending on that, your family and kids get the dependent visa. How do I get more credits if I don't have enough credits in that subject in my curriculum? I really don't have an answer for this. It depends on your university if it offers you to take additional credits or electives, which I think is you should ask in your bachelor's course if that's what it is meant here. If it's something else, please let me know. Can you please guide for writing motivational letters? Maybe later on, not here today, but maybe later on. But I would really respect if there is a background homework everybody does before approaching me for help, because it just gets impossible to reply to every message on the group, on the LinkedIn or emails that I receive, and then people do not even reply in a courtesy. So it just takes a lot of strength from my side as well, and I respect if somebody's done their homework. MS in US or MS in Germany, which is more conducive, favorable? A good question. MS in US is quite lucrative actually, because you can actually get scholarship in US for MS only if you kind of fool them that you are going to pursue a PhD. But a lot of times people do not pursue PhD, they drop out and they just take the scholarship for the MS. Universities are really good in US as well, in Germany as well. So I would say US is in itself a very, very good option. Only thing is for US, you may, if you go on a self-funded program, there is a huge amount of fees. But if you do not go on a self-fund, if you get a scholarship, you have to prepare for GRE and TOEFL. So it's that work that you do before and you get the scholarship, and you may do masters in US. But again, if you can take a study loan and pursue masters in US, there are much better job opportunities, not in the sense of expertise, but in the sense of income in US as compared to Germany. So Germany maintains a very small bar between the poorest person and the richest person, wherein the consumerist society that US is has a huge bar. So you can actually lie on the bar of one of the highest earning people if you have a MS degree in US. And for Indians, I think US is more conducive. So far, Germany is still very less international in that way. And there is not a big Indian community. But there are still Indians. It's not that there are no Indians and you will not get a company anywhere. But it's just that I think, because my sister does her master's in US, so I know for a fact that she has a much different experience than me. Okay. Can you please repeat what precautions? Okay, yeah, for writing the CV, just let me see, Euro Express. I told that a lot of times our CVs are not very well designed. So first of all, tailor your CV while applying for a master's program to be a CV tailored for academic purposes. Do not add every XYZ information in that. Second, do not mention anything that you don't know. So a lot of times, if we have worked very slightly on something, we tend to mention in India, we tend to exaggerate our CVs, and that's not looked very nicely in Germany. So it's best if you do not do that. And there is I'm forgetting the name of that CV. Europass. So I will write it in the chat. Okay, chat is not available at the time, but I'll send you this link. It's called Europass, and it's a template that is usually preferred in Germany, to have your CV made in that format. It's clear and it's concise and kind of highlights everything they want to see. Also, they in Germany they usually prefer that you put your photo in the CV. So it's a good idea to always have your clear professional photo included in the CV, even while applying for a master's, PhD, or job. Is it necessary to open a blocked account? Yes, it's very necessary if you do not have a scholarship, because without that you do not get a student visa, and you have to keep that money for a year in the bank account. Is 12th marks matter to apply master's program? I'm not sure about this, but maybe not. Maybe what is more important is your bachelor's degree marks. Can we get website of trending topics in research in Germany? Just this is a vague question, sorry to say, but it's not always the easiest to tell you what are the trending topics in research, because it's so wide. Every field is so wide, and there are so many other there can be so many possibilities. But if you want to look for it, I would recommend, there is a website called Research in Germany, and then there's website DAD, and Euraccess is another website that I said lists down a lot of research topics or research job offers. So you can from that get an idea what kind of research openings are there in Germany right now. How tough is it to learn German? Very tough. It's one of the most complicated languages, but if you have a command on languages, maybe you can do better. I personally learned it for some time, and I was pretty good at it when I was doing it in 2018, but then after I got busy with my PhD and I did not practice it so much, so I really am really bad at it now, because I just didn't practice it much. I'm a second year student. What can I do to make a strong application worth being accepted? I think you should really focus on maintaining good grades if you want to reach a good university, first of all, and second, you should make up your mind that what kind of courses, or you can take additional, you can join additional clubs, maybe coding club and all that, if you want to increase your credibility on the CV. Other than that, I think getting into the masters is not a big deal. Like I said, it's what follows afterwards. So that's why I was trying to prepare you that just don't come here if you want to come to Germany, but because you want to do something different, but like you want to do good research or you want to study better. Okay, there are a lot of
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I interrupt you.
no.
I am Asma Zafar, and I recently done my master's, MArch and bachelor's from Aligarh Muslim University from the architecture department. And my dissertation work is on climate responsive facade design.
Mhm.
So I really want to know that the PhD selection criteria and how to make our CV and research proposal in the terms of how to grab the higher score in while selecting their selecting criteria. And they have different selecting criteria, but mainly they have seen that the research proposal and our CV. So what can I add in our research proposal and CV that they score much higher, and how to target and hit that K? How that can we do it?
Okay, so the field that you're working on, climate responsive facades, is a very I think it's a very good field right now. I've already worked with a professor in my master's, actually, in TUM, who works on the same thing. But like you said, it's not the easiest to get through it. And what I would recommend anybody who wants to apply for a PhD, especially not for a master's is more dependent on your bachelor's marks. And they do not seek any exceptional research expertise from you, but rather you are prepared to do good work while you are there. But regarding PhD, like I said, now if you're interested in this topic, I would really ask you to explore more and see what is not done, because very recently I was conducting an event and I came to know that there was a team from Nepal which was working on something that has already been done in Germany 10 years back. For them in Nepal, it was quite, they felt, the university students felt that they are doing a very good work. For them, it was good because their teachers were exposing them only to that level. So your exposure has to be at an international level. So you have this work, that whatever you have done, you have to really look and read more and more in that field from the latest publications and see what kind of work is being done, what can be done further. So if you really have a striking idea, whether or not you have developed an amazing proposal doesn't matter. If you really have a striking idea and if you can grab the attention of the professor, I'm sure they will get into conversation with you. But you have to show certain level of commitment. You have to show that you found a topic which is worth researching, you found the gaps which are worth addressing, you have read the literature a bit, and you have a draft proposal. Nobody's expecting you to prepare the best research proposal, but there should not be basic mistakes. You should know how to do citation. That's the biggest problem. We do masters, we complete our bachelors, we are never taught small things like this, how to do a citation. And these are the small things that they check to reject your application. So learn these basics, make your research proposal app, like I would say, just visually correct and have a striking idea, and that should be enough. Not enough, I would say, but that should be good enough to get you a starting point. And then of course you have to explore it with the professor. You have to show your commitment towards what they ask you to change. You have to come up with, you have to really be very critical. That's another big problem with us. We are never taught to be very critical. We don't question things the way we should be questioning things, and I have learned this hard way in my PhD. I did a master's from IIT. I also did a master's thesis from TUM, but I would still say when I entered PhD, I was naive and I did not know a lot of things, just because we don't look at the things like that. And it's just a learning for me. So that way I can only say that start questioning things, start questioning why is it important to question those things. And if you are able to put that together in your research proposal, I hope somebody would be interested to talk to you further. Second, regarding your CV, what you can try to do is, now that you have completed your master's, you can try to write what you can try to publish one single paper. Do not go for X number of papers, doesn't matter. One single paper from your master's thesis in a good journal. If you have one single paper in a good journal, that should be enough for you to get a PhD, because that just shows that you have the capability to do research.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Ma'am, do we need to publish papers in journals to get into a master's program in Germany?
No. Nobody expects you to have a paper in journal. I mean, they just don't look for a research acumen at master's level. That's a good thing for you. On the other hand, just the grades would work.
Do you think Germany is still a very good option for in the next 5 years? Like I'm in second year right now. Do you think it's still a very good option for Indian students or international students?
Yes, definitely. I do think so. I mean, it's still not the best place to live as an Indian or as an international person, because it's just a little more conservative society. They like to speak in German. They are less open to the international people, but they're not bad. If you know Germans, they're very friendly, very nice. In next 5 years or 10 years, I can see it as one of the leading. Actually, it is so, because at least in my field, top 5 researchers are from Germany. So you can see in a lot of Nobel laureates and a lot of leading researchers coming from Germany. So it's a very, very good option research wise, and also the education is really good.
Okay, so I think that the speaker has addressed maximum possible questions, and I think we had a really interactive session today. It was a great start to the event, and now I would like to call Sabahar to present the vote of thanks.
Am I audible?
Yes,
you are.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Sabat Ahmed Khan. I am a member of IEEE AMU student branch event conceptualization team, and on behalf of the IEEE AMU student branch and Women in Engineering Affinity Group, without whose collaboration this event would not have been possible, I would like to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks to all who helped us in making this webinar a resounding success. First and foremost, I would want to extend a grateful vote of thanks to our guest today, Ms. Sana Javed, for gracing today's webinar. And I would like design team to present the memento. Uh, okay, I'll do it myself. Present it. Window. Uh, okay, my screen is visible.
It is.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you. That's very kind of you. But I should also really compliment that for putting up this event, because back when I was in the college, we really had no guidance about this whole thing. And I think this is what I miss, because I see a lot of students coming from Jamia to Germany, and I miss seeing students from AMU. And it's a great pleasure to talk for you, because this is something I've wanted to share for a long time. And second, I should also compliment the design team, whoever it is, for all the posters and the promotions. It's a good take. So congratulations and keep it up.
Continuing, I would like to thank our speaker today for very interesting lecture and wonderful presentation, as well as for making this webinar interesting and relevant. It would be an understatement to say that your experience and advice about studying abroad were helpful to all of us. Your tips may open new gates of opportunities for all of us. I would like to thank our chairperson, Mr. Aslan Hamid, Secretary Abbas Syed Nuruddin, and Chairperson Women in Engineering Mahina Mahmood, and all the coordinators. I would also like to thank all the co-coordinators of all the teams for their dedication and teamwork to make this webinar a success. Finally, all the students who have turned up in such great numbers, not only from our department but also from other departments, also from other colleges. Once again, I thank all for your cordial cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I also get the recording of this webinar?
Yes, ma'am. I think it will be uploaded on the YouTube channel.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Also, ma'am, can you share the PPT?
I can share the I will email it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
I'll also email the links that I was talking about alongside. Take care then. Okay.